agenda will be kept current and available for public inspection in the office of the Secretary of the Board of Education at the Administrative Building during regular working hours. Pursuant to Section 841412 of the Nebraska statutes, the public is hereby informed that a current copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted in the board meeting room on the north wall. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice President Marica will lead us in the OPS vision and mission statement.
First is our vision, every student, every day, prepared for success, and our mission. Omaha Public Schools prepares all students to excel in college, career, and life.
Roll call, please.
Cassidy. Godding.
Present.
Hallman.
Present.
America.
Present.
Perlman.
Here.
Ryan.
Present.
Scanlon. Smith.
Here.
Snow.
Here.
7 present.
Thank you. Mrs. Cassidy and Mr. Scanlon have prior work and family engagements. I will entertain a motion to excuse them from tonight's meeting.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion by Dr. Holman, second by Mrs. Godding. Roll call, please.
Godding.
Aye.
Hallman.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Perlman.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
7 aye.
Carries. Moving on to School Spotlight with Mrs. Monique Farmer.
Good evening, Board President Snow, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Logan. We are pleased to present this evening Standing Bear Elementary and Burke High School as tonight's OPS Proud Spotlight. In July, Standing Bear Elementary and Burke High were ranked in the top 3 as Omaha's Choice in the education category. The Omaha's Choice Award is hosted by the Omaha World Herald. Community members have the opportunity to go online and vote for their favorite businesses and or organizations in various categories. Standing Bear was named first place in the K-8 public education category for the 2nd year in a row, and Burke High School was named winner for public high school education. We salute Standing Bear Elementary School and Burke High School for their committed staff, teachers, and their dedication to our students. I would now like to invite both principals, Lynette Keys and Gay Lannon, to talk more about the great work that is happening at each of their schools.
Good evening, President Snow, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Logan. I am Lynette Keys, and it is an honor and privilege to stand before you tonight as the very proud principal of Standing Bear Elementary, Omaha's #1 Choice Award winner for K-8 public schools. This award is without a doubt the result of a collaborative effort between a very dedicated, caring, and hardworking staff, outstanding students, and supportive families and community members. Although I would enjoy sharing all the wonderful things happening at Standing Bear and all the reasons I think Standing Bear was voted #1, I would like you to hear from 2 of our finest students why they think Standing Bear was voted #1. At this time, I would like to introduce Claire Durasoba, Standing Bear 2nd grade student.
Hi, my name is Claire Durasoba, and I'm a 2nd grade student at Standing Bear Elementary. Standing Bear is amazing. I love the school for the teachers and the people here. I think Standing Bear was voted #1 because the students are kind and don't bully each other. Every single person at Standing Bear is different, and we're always supportive of that. My favorite Standing Bear event is the yearly fun run where we all run in circles and it raises money for the school. I am so excited for this year and 3rd grade, even though that means I am 1 year closer to leaving this school. I love Standing Bear, and I always will.
Next, I would like to introduce Hudson Murphy, Standing Bear fourth grade student.
Hi, my name is Hudson Murphy and I'm in 4th grade at Standing Bear Elementary. Standing Bear is an awesome school. Since kindergarten, I've met lots of great friends, teachers, and school staff. Everyone who works at Standing Bear cares about the students and wants us to be our best. One of my favorite parts of being a Standing Bear student is how much fun we all have together outside of the school day. My favorite day each year is the Standing Bear School Carnival, where the teachers and parents run carnival games, DJ the music, and serve food to students and our families. We're lucky to be at a school where everyone is joyful and helpful. Not only do we have awesome teachers, but we have great specialists and staff. Even though I hate to sing, our music teacher can make me way less nervous. I've had the chance to participate in Before School Fitness Club, speech, and the Gifted and Talented program, and ambassadors, and I've loved it all. I know everyone cares about us. This is my last year as a Standing Bear student, and I'll be sad to go on to Buffett Middle School. Maybe not as sad as my mom, though. A tradition at our school is the 4th grade crop out, where all of the students and staff say goodbye to the 4th graders as they walk out of the building. The 4th grade crop out is another way for students to know that others care. When I go to Buffett Middle School, I'll know I'll do great with the confidence that Standing Bear gave me.
That's low. Good evening, Gay Lannon, and proud to stand before you, Dr. Logan, and the Board of Education tonight to be recognized as one of Omaha's favorites in terms of public high schools. I brought with me 3 students tonight, and I also want to recognize some hardworking people that work at Burke High School in different capacities. I have an English teacher, our AP cohort teacher, Pam Holman. Nicole Niebuhr is one of our computer teachers. I have Don Ferree, he's a counselor at Burke High School, works really hard with our student athletes to make sure they stay eligible. I have an alumni and parent, Lisa Carlson, very strong leader in our alumni group. And then I have our PTO president, Susie Gunderson, and her 2 kids would be here with us tonight, but they're in the pool. So I want to introduce my 3 students and let them tell you what they enjoy about Burke High School. So first up is Marquis Howard, and then we'll hear from Lisa Carlson and Matt Kogwa.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Marquis Howard, and I'm a senior at Burke High School. My high school career has been amazing, and it would not be as amazing as it is now without Burke. Every single staff member wants to see every single student succeed. They don't see us as a student body. They see us as individuals that are united, recognizing that all of us are different and we all have our different interests. One way that they do that is they allow us to have a ton of different clubs and activities. I, however, am involved in show choir, theater, DECA, student ambassadors, and senior senate. But again, those are just what I am involved in. There's also a Women Empowerment Club, Philosophy Club, Drill Team, Gay Straight Alliance, We Sports Club, and the list just goes on. And that would not be possible without the support of our phenomenal students and staff. Walking through the hallways at Burke High School is something that not everyone gets the honor of feeling. Walking through the hallways and seeing all the posters and signs for all the different clubs and activities and sporting events while hearing Dr. Walters do his daily bark over the intercom is a feeling that not everyone gets the honor of feeling. It's a sense of pride, integrity, honor, and that is what it feels to be a Burke Bulldog. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alexa Carlson, and at Burke I love the diversity and all of the different clubs that they offer us. We are all involved in choir and the theater department, and we absolutely love it. All of the performances, all of our staff members come and support us through each performance, and it really means a lot to the students who perform.
Hello, my name is Matthew Kogwa, and I will be a senior I am a senior at Burke this year. One of the reasons that I really love Burke is the strong sense of school spirit. You can see it at our football games. You see it when our students perform in any capacity, whether it be with us in show choir or in the theater department, or the football players when they are playing their games on Fridays. There's just been a very strong sense of community integrity, and it is a very supporting place, which is why we can foster all the clubs that we have and all the great diversity that is represented at Burke.
I knew this would happen. Her mother is in the, and I talked to her a lot, so I'm sorry, Alexa Carlson, not Lisa. That's her daughter. I would just like to wrap it up by saying at Burke High School, we are focused on the infinite game, which means it's not about competing. We want all public high schools to do well. We want all students to exceed in academics. When it comes to athletics and competition, that's a different story. But again, very proud and humbled to have received this recognition. And Standing Bear, congratulations to you, and I hope that we get the honor of enjoying some of your students at Burke High School in the future.
Thank you guys so much. Open up for board members for comments. Mrs. Gotting.
Well, I just have to say I'm very, very proud of Standing Bear for this being the second year that you've all been recognized, and I think that's pretty exciting. And having had the opportunity to visit the school many times over the years, there's a reason why you were selected #1. It's a wonderful community of families and students, and great learning going on in the building. So it's so fun to watch that. And then I'm so excited for Burke as well, and the three of you who are part of theater and music. I've had the privilege of watching you all on stage before, and it's an amazing department and program that is happening at Burke High School, and I'm excited for what the future holds because I think it's only going to get better. So I'm pretty excited about that. So congratulations to both of you for the honors.
I apologize in advance. I'm taking photos of everybody so we can tweet it out. It'd be cool. Dr. Logan?
Congratulations to both schools. They do have great leadership, and so I want to make sure that I point that out, that great schools are led by great leaders, and I want to make sure we give a super special shout out to Principal Keys and to Principal Lannon. I also want to say to the kids at Burke, I was there yesterday during the Great Flood, and I was very impressed with how well that you did in terms of just being responsible and doing what you needed to do, as well as the staff. And I recall that one of the staff members, when making an announcement, said that students are going to go to pick up their belongings, and they might be a little agitated because it's not like the best thing in the world to have your things soaked with water, and to make sure that they took great care. And that meant that they were going to acknowledge your feelings. And I just really appreciated the fact that the staff member took the time to make sure that not only you got your belongings, but also that you were treated with great care, because it was an emergency situation for everyone. So thank you for what you have fostered, Principal Lannon and also Principal Keys. These two young people, you guys are just delicious and delightful, and very proud of you, because public speaking is very difficult and you made it look really easy. So thank you.
May I just have one moment to also thank the district and a lot of other people that were there to help us, so thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much for receiving this award and making us OPS proud, and just really amazing students coming up and speaking before us today. Want to just real quick, for the high school students, I have a quick question. What's your plan after high school? And if you don't know, that's okay.
My current plan is to hopefully go to St. Louis University, where I will take a bachelor's in biomedical engineering, get my master's, and then go to med school. I'm currently in the high school alliance program, which thank you for being able to offer that, because I love going down to the med center every day.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you. And that's a small program, but I mean, you guys are amazing in that program.
Yes, so after high school, I plan on going to college. Don't know where yet, and I also plan on going into medicine, like Matthew, and I also plan on going into UNMC, the Alliance, my senior year. As of right now, I am a Methodist volunteer, but yeah, going into medicine, so.
Thank you.
After high school, I plan on going to college. Again, I don't know where either, but I plan on majoring in musical theater and minoring in business administration. Awesome. I know. And real quick for you two, what do you guys want to do after high school when you graduate, when you grow up? You don't know? It's fine. It's okay to be a kid. That's fine. Well, I want to thank all the parents and the teachers and the staff and everybody that came out tonight. So we just want to give you guys a round of applause if you guys could stand up, please. Thank you for all your support for OPS. And then also, students, we have some OPS Proud Pins, and we're going to give you 2 of them. You keep one for yourself, and you give one to one of your friends that made your school just as great as you are making it as well. So thank you guys so much. If you can come around the table, we would like to shake your hands and congratulate you. And we'll gather right here in the middle and take a photo and pictures. And I want 2 pictures. Let's get, just do one? Okay, Monique told me one. Okay.
And I'm like, I'm up to 50. But thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take a 2-minute recess. Moving on to Board and Superintendent Communications, Dr. Logan.
Good evening, everyone. President Snow, Vice President Merrica, members of the board, and the public. Last week, we held the first principals meeting of the year. Principals learned some new information about some technology tools to help communications between and among them, and to help them crowdsource questions, concerns, and information. The goal of, one of the goals of the tech tools is to really streamline communications to principals so they are not getting too many emails from staff to help them and support them doing their jobs in their schools. One of the things that we discussed, or some of the things that we discussed, were the three focus areas for the year: math, attendance, and safety in terms of threat assessment, and began the launch of district-wide standard response protocol for all of our schools, which is highly recommended for the state of Nebraska. Members of our crisis management team have been in discussions with safety and threat assessment experts at the University of Nebraska and the state as we review our current processes and protocols to determine next steps. This morning, executive level members of our crisis management team also participated in the Omaha Police Department's threat assessment in schools best practices training put on by the Colorado School Safety Resource Center at UNO. In addition, I am pleased to report, in terms of our bond contract, to report a decrease in the percentage paid in commission to our bond contractor from 3.795% to 3.2% following negotiations for services for the Phase 2 bond. This will result in a savings of $2,340,000 for the district, giving us more dollars that can be used to provide world-class experiences to our students. I would like to thank Megan Niels Brash. I would like to thank Tony Turnquist and also Mark Warnicki for participating on the negotiating team to get that work done on behalf of our students, families, and the voters of Omaha. One component of this contract as well will directly benefit students through opportunities for career exposure from construction and architecture to engineering through curriculum materials and experiences that will be provided by the project manager. As an academic, I'm especially excited about that. And tomorrow, we will hold our first student town hall meeting for students here in the boardroom from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Students in middle and high school received a special invite into their email boxes with a link to a form where they can submit their questions, and they have submitted many questions in advance. We look forward to hearing from our students and learning from them with their ideas and their concerns and challenges in their schools and school experiences. This concludes my report for this board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Logan. Moving on to board members. Okay, no comment. All right, the next item on our agenda is public comment. We have two speakers who have submitted request to speak forms. The board has adopted policy 8346, which provides public comment for a period of 1 hour. That same policy limits individual speakers to a maximum of 5 minutes. We ask that you respect that time limit. Mr. Ray will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining and when you have 30 seconds remaining. If you are in need of an interpreter, please let Mr. Ray know and one will be provided for you. If the subject of your public comment is related to a particular student or staff member, we ask that you not mention the student or staff member by name and instead provide that information to Mr. Ray. He will assist us in looking into those types of details for you. If you do not get an opportunity to speak and would like to submit any written commentary, please provide it to Mr. Ray. He will make sure each board member gets a copy. As a reminder, we ask that you please spell your name and state your address before you begin your public comment. It is now 6:55, and our first speaker is Gina Miller.
Don't
Welcome
look
back, Gina.
quite so shocked, please. Good evening.
Good evening, board members, President Snow, and Superintendent Logan. I have not been here since Dr. Logan has joined us, so I would like to officially welcome Dr. Logan and congratulate everyone on a very successful start to the school year. I am here to speak on a particular topic, but I would be remiss if I don't say a number of very quick thank yous. I am blessed that the schools that were represented this evening are my schools. I can't believe that Buffett was not on the list. Then we would have a trifecta, but it really should be, and we all know that it is a trifecta. So this side of the room was all Standing Bear, basically teachers and parents, and to have that kind of show up for parents and teachers that have been running all day and all week speaks of what the start that my children got, and why I'm so passionate about that start and the continuation of that kind of education is given to every single one of our students across the district. And so that's why you see me so often, is because I get to see this every single day, and I want all of our children to see that every single day, and that kind of leadership. I am here this evening. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, one more thank you. A huge thank you to Mrs. Lannon, to the district, and to Mrs. Farmer for our flood, the Great Flood. It is a remarkable experience as a parent, especially a parent that's been actively engaged in this community for 10 years, to be getting a text from our communications department within maybe seconds of receiving one from my daughter. That is unbelievable. So thank you, unbelievable. Thank you to the administration who implemented crisis management to a T. Thank you to the students who listened and performed exceptionally well. When I pulled up to the school, I am able to leave whenever I can, so whenever I want to. So I was within minutes of getting the evacuation notice and showing up. I was there. OFD had already been there. OPD was there directing traffic. The students were exiting quietly and professionally. Staff members were escorting students to the right locale if they weren't going to be picked up. So everything went off without the hitch. And my public post that went out, I think one of the parents put it best, is that gave me so much great comfort that if we can handle a flood, that is a crisis, because it was serious, but we can handle bigger things just that well. And for a parent to know that is amazing. So thank you to everyone, especially communications. Okay, now I have to go fast. I get extra, oh, come on. I get extra time for that. So I'm here to speak on literacy. The district has done a lot of hard work over the last 7 to 10 years that I've been actively engaged with the board. The district has passed 2 major bond initiatives. We'll now have schools that our children can learn and thrive in. Our teachers have received pay increases. We have extended school day and school year to increase instructional time. We've added social workers, SROs, SRO training, cultural competency training, added mentors and mentoring programs, expanded summer lunch programs, new executive directors, new restructured community and student engagement department, yay, Mrs. Latterbach, many other initiatives. I hope that as we move through the midterm elections, those of you who are up for re-election have successful campaigns so that we could continue to have some tenure and consistency on this board. It has been a lot of transition over the last few years, and last but not least, we now have our competent, energetic, engaged, visible superintendent. The groundwork has been laid, and now as we move into planning for new strategic plan, I am asking that we all move our thinking about building and services to become laser focused on one thing, and that is literacy. I'm excited that we have a focus on math, but we now have good legislation requiring proficient reading skills and legislation to address dyslexia. Going forward, I especially ask that our Black and Brown board members speak up and speak out on this issue. We can no longer continue to get the reports that we get every year from the state showing the achievement gap, that the poor reading math scores, especially of our Black and Brown students. It is my belief that it has been shown in many models across the country when kids can read and write, we won't need an immense number of social workers, SROs, disciplinary plans. Kids want, when they can read, they want to come to school. We must address all facets of reading. There are models that work. We have some implemented. They are not being implemented consistently across the board. I ask that we make a concerted effort to train our teachers about dyslexia to understand this interventions that are available. We have solutions, we have agencies that do this work, and we need to be partnering with them. Many of the board members know Voice Advocacy Center, and we have a pilot program that we would love to talk to you about to implement in some of our schools to make that dyslexia training and services for our students. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Larry Storr.
Good evening. My name is Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. Oh boy, another program. I'm 75. I've been snooping around Omaha for quite a few years, different board meetings, different bodies, commissions, and things. And I find out that there is some collusion amongst different governmental bodies, such as OPS, Douglas County Juvenile Center, Learning Community Council, this, that, and the universities. Best practices from people all outside of Omaha that come in and get money out of my pocket. And I've got like 8 different agencies around Omaha in my billfold. Well, I find out that some of these are tied together. OPS-OYS is one of them. We find that at the Juvenile Justice Center. Been around for quite a few years. Child Find, Strengthening Families. Some of this is state business, but you all support it. And people from outside come in with their best practices for this stuff and ask for dollars from the state for these programs. I find out that Learning Community Council is into my pocket for expansion of 2 buildings for early childhood education, starting at, what, 6 months? Excuse me. And also for a parent university to teach parents how to raise their kids. The Founding Fathers were very adamant about education, and all of us do support education. But the purpose was for a fine young country to uphold the Constitution, which does not mean social justice programs. We do have social justice programs here in Omaha, and OPS is involved in some of that. I ran across something from 2 years ago, and I want to read it. Because it was a topic on a radio talk show program. But of course it never went very far. But during our annual curriculum day for high school teachers, a contemporary historical overview of the Black Lives Matter movement was presented to approximately 40 of our high school social studies teachers. The session was optional. The intent was to adequately prepare teachers with a well-rounded understanding of the movement and its origin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Our goal as an educational institution is to provide well-rounded enrichment and professional development training for our teachers and give them the tools they need to be successful in the classroom. Successful for social justice? How about successful at teaching our country's values? We were based on a Christian country. Our founding fathers were all Christians. A few of them weren't. But every state constitution before the Constitution was formed had those principles in it. We were based on English principles and English precedents. We have a Supreme Court nominee today. They're trying to rip him apart. And a lot of what you hear is very unconstitutional. The people that are questioning him, they are not constitutionally charged with taking either him down or President of the United States. We don't teach this in the schools anymore. One thing that was mentioned today was Article 5. How I and you can propose amendments. We can go around Congress. When your government's not performing, it is your right, it is your duty to throw them off and alter your form of government. Hopefully for the betterment of each of us.
1 minute.
They didn't mean by revolution. They meant by giving me the chance to have a voice by getting people to support a constitutional amendment. Constitutional convention, no. That'll never happen. It's a convention of states. Nebraska can lead that, and I think they should. Read about it, read Article 5, teach what the words of Article 5 mean, because even our state
30
legislators
seconds.
do not understand that, such as shall, may, or. What comes after or? What does that imply? It implies there's a second option, and the second option is for people like me to have a say when my government doesn't let me. And I think that came up today in the hearings. Maybe not very clear because they were moving rather fast. But I understand the Americanism bill in the state legislature removes a lot of this language. I'm sorry. My taxpayer dollars say,
That's time, sir.
do not remove Americanism from our curriculums. Do not insert Black Lives Matter and social justice programs into our curriculums. That's for a family to do. Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda, I will now entertain a motion I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda that is before us. And real quick, is my mic on? It doesn't sound on. Okay. Thank you. I'm very loud. Thank you.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Miss Ryan, second by Dr. Holman. Any abstentions? Roll call, please.
Holman.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Perlman.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Scanlon.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Goding.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. I'll lean off the mic now. So. Our next item on the agenda, I'm fixing my thing real quick.
This is what you want.
Thank you.
All right, Connie Kanoki.
President Snow, Vice President America, members of the board, and Superintendent Logan. I would like to present to you the proposed budget for 2018-19 for Omaha Public Schools. District administration is requesting the approval of a total budget of expenditures for 2018-19 of $1.3 billion to support the education needs of 53,000 students, the largest student population in the state. In addition to the general operating fund, the budget we're proposing includes the Depreciation Fund, employee benefits, contingency, activities, school nutrition, bond, special building, qualified capital purpose undertaking, cooperative, and student fee fund. The sum of all of these funds equals the total expenditures of $1.3 billion. A copy of the 2018-19 Budget at a Glance is available at the back of the room and is an attachment to your board agenda. Our budget information is also available for our stakeholders online by visiting openbook.ops.org. And when you look in the Open Book, when you click on it, when you get to our website, you can drill down and see the expenditure budgets for 2017 and 18 compared to 18-19 by department, by building, by program, and it's a really neat way to see the staffing, what's being spent, and what's being done in each of those buildings. I have key messages I'd like to share with you tonight. The first one being that we're working to ensure clear and transparent communications around our budget. The district's annual fiscal year begins on September 1 and it goes through August 31st. But prior to developing the budget of expenditures, we need to know how much revenue we have to work with. So when you look at this first slide I have up here, it shows you general operating revenues for our general fund. And I'm focusing on the general fund because it's the largest fund and it's where all the general operations go for the district. The sources of revenue for the general fund are property tax revenues, local receipts, state receipts, and then federal receipts. The first column shows the adopted budget for 2017-18, and it compares it to what we're proposing for 2018-19. There on the first line is the property tax revenues, and for 2018-19 you'll see some hyphens in front of that. And our proposed budget we're showing you tonight is $4.6 million higher than what you saw at our budget workshop in August. And that's because we got our assessed valuations. They came in on August 20th, and the assessed value was higher than what we were using for our preliminary estimates. So there was additional revenue coming in for that, and that just means that we won't have to draw down as much from our fund balance to make the budget balance. I'd also like to point out the state aid. When you compare 2017-18 to 2018-19, our state aid dropped by $12.5 million from last year to this year. So overall, the reduction in state aid was made up by the property tax revenues, because our valuation increased this current year by 5%. So our total revenues basically remained flat. Last year it was $599 million. This year we're projecting it to be $595 million. So there's a slight decrease, but it basically remained flat. When you look at the property tax revenue, it's important to note that that excludes the 1% Treasurer's Commission. When we levy property taxes, the county treasurer takes a 1% commission fee off the top of whatever we collect in taxes, so that excludes that in this example. The next message I'd like to share with you is that we are responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. When we began the development of the budget for 2018-19, we were projecting about a $50 million shortfall in our budget. So we knew we had to make some reductions, but we didn't know where to make those reductions. So we formed a budget advisory committee in January with members of the community, district leaders, and members of the bargaining units. And we met for 5 different meetings, and we discussed different options on what we could do to help meet this need that we had coming on to 2018-19. So through the work of the Budget Advisory Committee, the support of district leaders, and the Board of Education, we were able to develop a budget that had reduced our projected increases by $29 million over from what we had projected it to be compared to what we're showing you now. And it was also a lot of hard work from Christy Rakowski and her staff working on the budget, getting this going. It is a massive project to try to develop a budget for the district. The budget is developed by allocating dollars for each building and department to align with our district goals and strategies, objectives within the strategic plan. We developed a balanced budget that incorporated central office budget reductions of $13.4 million, which included the elimination of 60.4 full-time positions. And in addition to that, we reduced our vacant positions for paraprofessionals. We have 1,356 total parapositions. We reduced that by 130 positions, and that was for the vacant positions. So that was a cost savings to the district. We also delayed the K through 5 English language arts textbook adoption until 2019-20, and that gives staff the opportunity to evaluate the materials before finalizing the selection. The decreases in the proposed budget include a 5% reduction in all supply, material, and equipment budgets, efficiencies in contracted transportation due to the implementation of the student assignment plan, and freezing of salaries and benefits for all employee groups except for the teachers. So when you look at this next slide, you'll see that our proposed expenditures, it shows you the type of expenditure and then what we had adopted in 2017-18 compared to what we're proposing in 18-19. So you'll see for the salaries and benefits, there's a slight increase for that. And that's because we had negotiated with the teachers prior to the formation of the Budget Advisory Committee, and they had reached an agreement where they got a total package increase of 1.6%. That includes salaries and benefits. So that's reflected here in the proposed budget for 18-19. You'll also see decreases in the purchase services. There was an 8% decrease in purchase services, and that is in our contracted transportation. And that's where we had incorporated efficiencies that we had with the student assignment plan. And I also mentioned we had reductions in supply, material, and equipment budgets, so that's all reflected here. We do have an actuarial required contribution to the Omaha School Employees Retirement System. And in this budget, we've accounted for the shortfall we're currently experiencing. We continue to work with the legislature on a remedy, and we hope to mitigate the impacts to future years' budgets. It's important to note that our budget is stable for the upcoming fiscal year, and we're taking into account all of our needs that we have going forward. When we developed the budget in 2017-18, we had only budgeted for $7 million for the actuarial required contribution, and that actually ended up being over $18 million that we had to pay. So this year, as we develop the 18-19 budget, we are budgeting for $21.3 million for the ARC payment, but we know that depending on the rate of return on investments, this amount can vary. It can go up, it can go down, but we're planning on the 21.3, and that's based on what the actuary had projected last year when we were working on some legislation for retirement. So our total general fund expenditures, after we do all of the reductions and taking into the account the teacher negotiated agreement, our total expenditures are increasing by 1.35%. Okay, our next message is that our proposed budget for 2018-19 reduces our overall tax rate by a penny from last year to this year. So in addition to all of those reductions that we made, we're actually reducing our tax asking by a penny. So when you look at this document, this is the OPS property tax request. Our taxing funds are the general fund, the bond fund, and the qualified capital purpose fund. Earlier I mentioned the contingency fund, employee benefit fund, all of those funds. They're not taxing funds, but the three ones that we tax on, we have to publish what our property tax request is going to be. So for 2017, it's the third column from your left. It shows the tax rates that we had for 2017, and our total tax asking last year was 1.257391. And if you go to the very last column over on your right, that's the proposed tax rates for 2018. And you'll see the total tax asking is actually a penny less than what we had the year before. So the owner of a $150,000 home in Omaha would pay $1,868 in property taxes, and that's a savings from last year to this year of $18 over the current year's tax bill, and that's assuming that the homeowner's property valuation doesn't change. The reduction in the proposed tax rate is due to the phase out of the early leave incentives for our teachers. That was outside of the maximum levy limit. We're limited by a maximum levy of $1.05. We had an exclusion for the early leave incentives, but those are being phased out, and as a result, our total levy has decreased. This is a summary of our taxing funds, the bond fund, the qualified capital purpose fund, and the general fund. What this slide is showing you is that we're proposing a budget that's balanced. And to have a balanced budget, that means your revenues equal your expenditures. So the far left column, the first column there, is our total expenditures for the taxing funds that we have. So I mentioned we have a $1.3 billion budget of expenditures, but with our taxing funds, our total tax asking is the $878 million. So we do have $92 million in federal funds that we get that is not reflected here, and that's because those funds are generally block grants and they're in and out. They're for a specific purpose, and they can't be used for any operations of the general fund. So this is showing you our expenditures of our taxing funds, and then it's showing you the revenues that we have to support that. It shows you the state aid and the local receipts that we receive, the property taxes that are coming in. But I would like to direct your attention to the very bottom of the second column that shows to you that we're going to be drawing on our cash on hand to balance this budget by $21.6 million. So moving forward, we have a balanced budget. Our levy is less than it was the year before, and we're making good use of the tax dollars that we're given. And it's also important to note that education funding in the state of Nebraska is similar to education funding trends that we're seeing across the country and in the metro area. And as states and local governments work to manage a limited number of resources and dollars, education funding impacts are being seen locally, regionally, and nationally. So everybody's feeling a pinch, and obviously we had a reduction in our state aid, but we made up for that with some of our property taxes, but we still have needs to address for our students and obligations that we have of the district. So that's a summary of our general budget for the Omaha Public Schools, the $1.3 billion general operating expenditures. And then I'd like to move on to show you the Educational Service Unit. The Educational Service Unit works with the Omaha Public Schools. It's an entity that has the ability to levy a penny and a half. It uses the same valuation base as the OPS district budget, and the governing board is the same as the OPS budget. So they work together. This is a balanced budget, $22 million in expenditures and $22 million in revenue. A lot of the revenue that comes to the ESU is from interlocal agreements between OPS and the Educational Service Unit. The ESU provides services to the district for staff development, technology, and media services. It levies a tax of a penny and a half, and that's about $3.3 million in property taxes that are generated from that. Receives state aid called core services, and then it's an interlocal, so we transfer money over to the ESU, and then it provides services to the district. And then finally, I would like to show you the 5-year projection that we have for going forward. This is a forward-looking document, and it's to show that we're taking into consideration what we think our revenues are going to be. We know what our expenses are going to be. We're showing what our actuarial required contributions are going to have to be in future years. We know that we have 5 or 6 new schools coming on board in the next 5 years, so we're budgeting for that. So it's a measure to ensure clear and transparent communication about our strategic plan to serve our students and families, and it's a 5-year projection of revenues and expenditures to support the mission of preparing students to excel in college, career, and life. Again, this projection accounts for the cost of opening 6 new schools in the next 5 years and for the anticipated increases associated with a growing student population and their needs. This projection is forward-looking and is inherently subject to a variety of risks and uncertainties that could cause actual revenues and expenditures to differ materially. So it's a projection as of this point in time, but it'll be moving and evolving as we know more going forward. So what we did when we developed this 5-year projection is in the first column we're showing you fiscal year 2018, and it's showing estimated actual expenditures and revenues for the year. And the reason it's estimated actual is because our fiscal year ended on August 31st, so we don't have the actual expenditures yet. When we get that, we will fill that in. The second column for fiscal year 2019 matches what I just talked about for our proposed budget for the general operating fund. The thing to point out when you look at total revenue of $595 million, compared to total expenditures of $617 million. That shows you why we had to use $21.6 million of cash on hand to balance the budget. And then moving forward, if you look at fiscal year 2020, on the revenues at the very top of the page, it shows the local property taxes. We anticipated for 2020 through 2023 a 2% increase in our valuation for property tax revenues. That's a conservative estimate. The last 2 years we've had a 5% growth, but we've also had years with negative growth in valuation. So we're being conservative, estimating what it's going to be moving forward. The state aid, if you look at 2020 up through 2023, I've done projections to estimate what the new school adjustment would be. There's additional state aid that comes on when there's new schools added, and also for student growth adjustment as well. So when you look at the total revenue, clear over on the right-hand side, it shows a cumulative average growth rate. So as a conservative estimate, we're projecting a growth rate of 2.85%, which I believe is conservative, and it's a fair presentation of what it is we think is going to be happening in the years to come. When you look at the expenditures, the second section of this page, you'll see the salaries for 2020 through 2023 are flat, and that is because those are negotiated agreements between the board and the bargaining units, and we didn't want to make an assumption on what would happen with those negotiated agreements. So in this projection, we left those flat. If at some future time you want to change those projections, that's something that we could incorporate into this projection. When we looked at the expenditures, we were increasing them based on historical data that we have for what we've been spending on contracted purchases, supplies, and materials. We're taking all of that into consideration moving forward through the years. You'll see the line for actuarial required contribution, the ARC, and you see as we move from fiscal year 2019 all the way through to 2023, that's an ever-increasing amount. But we've taken that into account to show you that we have a balanced, stable budget. We're planning for these things coming forward, and we know what we have to do to get to the end result to serve our students. We have, in this projection, we are using an unrestricted fund balance of not going below 15% of our total expenditures. So that was also incorporated into this estimate going forward. So this just gives us a lens to look through to figure out what it is we're going to do. But if you look clear over on the right-hand corner under the expenditures, we're projecting the cumulative average growth in expenditures to be 2.84. So by the time we get through 2023, we're going to be taking in more revenue than we're spending. So that's a good place to be, and it's showing that we're being stable and we're being thoughtful as we're going forward. Under the expenditures, I've shown increases for the new elementaries, the high schools, and the middle schools when they come on board, when they're projected to come on board. Those could still change as we go forward. But those projections were based on a building of a similar size to what is going to be built, so we could figure out what it would cost for staffing, materials, to maintain that building, what it's going to be. So we believe this is a good planning tool going forward. It shows, we know what our obligations are. We know what we can expect for revenues. If there's changes in the law or whatever, we can adjust the projection, but this is where we are at this point in time. And let's see. At this time, we're projecting we need to have some reductions in 2019-20 to meet these obligations and to maintain this unrestricted fund balance of 15%. We're thinking that we're going to have some reductions next year, and so that is a 50% reduction in what we had to do this in 2018-19. So that's a good place, and we know what we have to do to go forward. And that's all I have on the budget, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Connie. Any questions so far for Connie Kanoki? Mr. Pullman.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kanoki, for presentation, and I apologize. I'll just say right off the bat, I try my best to ask these questions in advance, and so I'll try not to ask anything that would be obviously required, and, some time to dig up some more information. But one thing that I'm seeing here on page 6, a couple of questions. I'll start with the supplies and materials. I'm sorry, the contracted purchases on the expenditures side. For the year 2019, it looks to take almost a $7 million dip. Is that the textbook delayed adoption there, or is that?
That's transportation.
Oh, transportation. Yeah. Okay. And so I guess my next question is, why do we see the cost essentially rebound in the following years?
Well, if you're growing in student population and the buildings are opening, there could be increased costs, but that is something that is, certainly something the board would want to look at, and as we look at reductions, that might be something to look at too.
Okay. And my other question relates in the same expenditures area where we see increased costs for new high schools. In fiscal year 2021, it's projected to be $1 million. And then the following year, $28 million. The year after, $25 million. We'll just stick to fiscal year 22 at first. Is it projected to, am I seeing this correctly, that $28 million in new increased costs will be required for the 2 new high schools?
Yes, that's what we're projecting at this time. And the $1 million you saw in the year before, that was to hire the principal and the support staff to get it started before the building started. But again, these are projections of what we think may happen when those come on board.
Maybe my memory's incorrect, but I thought the high school's annual cost to operate was in the neighborhood of about $5 to $6 million a year.
No, we do have that projection for the high schools. The high schools are a bit higher than the elementary. I think you're looking at maybe the middle school was the $5 to $6 million.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Mrs. Gotti.
I know you mentioned already the early leave incentive and the change in the levy on that. Can you just remind us, does that end in 4 years and we end up back at $1.05?
Yes, that's a levy exclusion that's being phased out, right. And we had been working with a negotiated agreement to phase that out, and so yes, we still have a levy exclusion for the ones that are in there, but there won't be new early leave incentives that go forward.
And what is there will end in approximately 4 years or
yes.
So, and we'll come back to the $1.05.
Right.
Can you just share with us as well, and I'm sure you've told us before, but on the qualified capital purpose undertaking, the levy actually was reduced there. Can you just share with us what drove down that, or what caused that reduction?
We had, I believe it was 13 staff members that were paid for out of the qualified capital purpose fund that we moved over to the general fund, because the qualified capital purpose fund is part of the $5 levy limitation. And as we know, we have more pressure on our general fund of what we need to do to operate. We moved that over so that we wouldn't have to split the levy up. The levy you're seeing there, the reduced levy, is for the bonds out of the qualified capital purpose fund.
Okay, and part of the $5.
The bonds are outside. So
outside, correct.
Yes. But the staff that we moved, the reason it reduced is because we moved it over to the general fund.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Scanlon.
So I get this asked a lot. I mean, we have general fund, we have a bunch of different funds and everything, and you said $1.3 billion.
Yes.
And that, can you tell me what funds that includes?
Our depreciation fund, it's a budget of $10.5 million. We have an employee benefit fund, and they're actually sub-funds of the general fund, so money gets put in over there. That's $12.7 million. We have a contingency fund for $13 million, an activities fund for $7.5 million. Included in our total budget is the school nutrition fund, but that's a self-supporting fund. It's not supported by any tax revenues or anything. But their total expenditures are $43.4 million. Our bond fund is $142 million. And that's a levy fund that we talked about, and that's outside of the $5 maximum. We have a special building fund of $181.2 million. When we have a bond issue, the proceeds gets put into the special building fund and then spent out of there, and then the principal and interest is paid for out of the bond fund. So this is proceeds from the bond issue is in the special building fund. We also have the Qualified Capital Purpose Fund, which is $5.8 million. We have a cooperative fund of $42.7 million and a student fee fund of $700,000.
So in addition to all those funds, we're not talking about any grant money yet?
The grant money is part of the general fund total, but when I was showing you the levying funds, it was only the operating part of those funds. It wasn't including the federal funds because those are in and out. They're used for a specific purpose and they can't be used for anything else. So we don't show that in this, I guess, in this presentation. But
So I guess my question would be, $1.3 billion, does that include all the anticipated grants?
yes, it does.
Okay, so we're not...
Nothing more, that's it.
Okay, 1.3 is all the money
Yes.
for OPS, I guess taxpayer and grants?
Yes.
and
Federal, state, all
funds.
sources, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Froman.
Just to follow up on the question I had earlier, I did find there was the information I had. I need to pull it up again. You are right. In the estimated cost annually for to operate a new high school, the information we previously received leading up to the bond vote was $14.2 million a year, but it also showed an estimated increase in state aid.
Yes.
To help fund that. Is that reflected in this PowerPoint?
Yes, it is.
Kind of glancing through it. Okay. And what page is that on?
If you look on page 6, it's under the revenue sources, third line down, state aid, and you'll see the increases, and that's when those come on board. We actually get the new school adjustment and student growth the year we open the schools, so it helps you get the revenues that you need to operate.
Okay, and so is that with the projected opening date of the high schools for 22? Is that?
That's all I know at this time.
Right.
Obviously, we haven't gotten that plan yet of actually when those are going to be built. It's probably an optimistic plan of when this is going to happen, but I don't know what that's going to be.
I guess because my underlying question it would be then what is it's a 2-year, essentially, I'm probably using the wrong term, but bonus aid for the first 2 years of operating a school?
Yes.
Is that a percentage or a fixed dollar amount? And
it's basically, for the new school adjustment, it's based on the square footage and the additional students that you'll be serving. Okay. So you get a certain dollar amount per student that you have. And I have a formula that I've used to project that. And then on the student growth adjustment, it's the same thing. It's how much you expect your students to grow from one year to the next because of... And, you know, the Omaha Public Schools, we grow our student population by 1% to 2% every year. So, you know, when there's more capacity, there may be more students coming in. So that's what we've projected at this time.
Okay. Sorry to ask so many questions, but I guess fundamentally my issue is it a significant portion of that increase in 2022-23 that comes from that temporary bonus aid, if you will, or is this something that we should anticipate to see in future years, 24, 25, or will there be a cliff that falls off? Probably a bad term again. So.
Well, the increase in expenditures are going to be reflected in the state aid formula, so our basic funding per student should go up because we have increased expenditures, so there shouldn't be a cliff. It should kind of level off, is what I'm projecting. But, you know, as we go forward and you project the next 5 years and going forward, we can see what that does to the formula, and obviously, you know, the legislature looks at that every year, and there may be changes they want to propose for that.
Vice President America.
Thank you. First off, Connie, I wanted to thank you and your team for doing the 5-year projection, because I think that's not something, and Dr. Logan.
It was Dr. Logan.
Because that's not something we've had before.
Yeah.
And since this is my last budget I'm going to vote on, I really want to encourage my board members that are going to still be on the board and our future board member to look at this as a living document, because this is something that we can come back and we know TIOSA is going to change. It may not even be TIOSA anymore. It may be something completely different. And when that has changed, that's something our financial team can put in and say, here's what the new 5-year projection looks like. If the way the ARC is calculated changes, that's something we can put in here. When we have a firm date on, yep, high school south is going to open this year, high school northwest is going to open this year, those are all changes and tweaks that can be made to show you guys a real-time projection of continually what our years are looking like. So I just want to leave you all with that as we think about budgets, to just look at this, like I said, as a living document for going forward.
Yeah, that was totally Dr. Logan's suggestion, and I think it's a very good one. And it does show that we're stable, we're forward-looking, we know what's coming up, and we've accounted for it.
Mrs. Gotti.
I also appreciate that. I think one of the things that it probably really should bring to mind for all of us is just watching that unrestricted fund balance. So before we vote on the budget, I want to just share that as I shared during the entire spring and through the processes, I've been very concerned about the reduction in the general fund reserves just because of the bond rating and just the concern about going too deep into that when there's challenges ahead that will be significant. So I guess I would just encourage the board to be very mindful of that, because it's not something we can do all the time. And the other piece of that I'm concerned about and came up tonight, and even as part of our effort in making sure that we don't impact kids in the classroom, is just the curriculum component, and not allowing that to get away from us by pushing back the reading curriculum. We've essentially pushed back potentially, or we'll have a real double up with science and with math and with other things, and knowing that we're already 2 cycles behind in reading for K-12 or for K-5, I think that's a concern as well. So I want to make sure that we focus heavily on students going forward and don't take away that opportunity for them to have the materials that they need in their hands to be able to be effective, and that we're also very mindful of that reserve fund from the taxpayer perspective of making sure that we keep that rating high, knowing that interest rates are probably headed up over the next tranches that we'll issue on this phase 2. So I think those are things that I just want to remind the board that are pretty important, and obviously there's some, the projections definitely show out 5 years, and that's really all they are, and that's what we have to remind ourselves. We never know, like Ms. America said, what's going to happen to TIOSA, and we definitely know that we have some potential there on the ARC side in 5 years that could have significant impact as well. Right. And so there's just some key trigger points that will happen in the future that we'll have to be mindful of and make sure we don't dig too deep of a hole for ourselves in that reserve.
We did incorporate in our budget for 2019 the textbook adoption that we delayed, so that's built into this projection. And then it was also Dr. Logan's suggestion to maintain the 15% unrestricted fund balance. So that was a good suggestion, and it helped make this a better projection. So
I would completely agree with that, because I think we know kind of where the bond rating agency wanted to see us, and this is even pulling back from where they wanted to have us be at, but it really tells us that next year that reduction's gonna, we need to be prepared for that, and obviously working ahead, and I know Dr. Logan is focused on that, and I appreciate the attention to this presentation. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Connie? Thank you so much for your presentation, Connie Kanoki. Again, thank you for all the work with your staff as well as Dr. Logan. Moving on, we'll now entertain a motion to approve the item J1A. Vice President America.
I move to adopt the resolution before you to approve the 2018-19 non-levy budgets for Douglas County School District 0001, which includes the following. School lunch, $43,371,979. School activities, $6,500,000. Central stores, $5,500,000. Depreciation, $5 million. Employee benefit, $11,600,000. Student fees, $700,000. Contingency, $13 million. Cooperative, $42,676,193. Prior service retirement, $145,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Vice President America, second by Mr. Smith. Any discussions? Roll call, please.
America,
Aye.
Perlman,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Scanlon,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Godding,
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Moving on to item J1B. Vice President America.
I move to adopt the resolution before you to approve the 2018-19 Douglas County School District 0001 budgets, which require a tax levy excluding the general fund as follows. Bond fund, $75,880,000. Special building fund, $181,198,500. And qualified capital purpose undertaking fund, $4,113,680.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Vice President America, second by Miss Ryan. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
America,
Aye.
Perlman,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Scanlon,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Godding,
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Moving on to item J1C. Vice President America.
I move to adopt the resolution before you to approve the 2018-2019 general fund local budget in the amount of $617,090,766, supported by tax requirements of $236,016,348, plus reimbursable programs in the amount of $92 million, for a total general fund budget of $709,090,766.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Vice President America, second by Dr. Holman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
America,
Aye.
Perlman,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Scanlon,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Godding,
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Moving on to item J1D. Vice President America.
I move to adopt the resolution before you to set the 2018-19 Douglas County School District 0001 property tax requests as follows. General Fund, $236,016,348. Special Building Fund, 0. Qualified Capital Purpose Undertaking Fund, $4,098,644. Bond Fund, $36,040,404. for a total property tax requirement of $276,155,396.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Vice President Americas, second by Dr. Holman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
America,
Aye.
Perlman,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Scanlon,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Gadding,
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Moving on to item J1E. Vice President America.
I move to adopt the resolution before you to approve the 2018-19 ESU number 19 budget of $22,140,710.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Vice President America, second by Ms. Ryan. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
America,
Aye.
Perlman,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Scanlon,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Gadding,
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Moving on to item J1F. Vice President America.
One more. I move to adopt the resolution before you to set the 2018-2019 ESU number 19 property tax request at $3,327,147.
There's a motion on the floor.
Aye.
There's a motion on the There's a motion on the floor.
Second,
by
sorry.
Vice President America, second by Dr. Holman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
America,
Aye.
Perlman, Ryan,
Aye.
Scanlon,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Gadding,
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Moving on to item J1G, resolution to repeal on the repeal of board policies and regulations. Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Board of Education, for an opportunity to talk one more time about policies and procedures. Just as a reminder that in 2014, this board set a path to revise all policies and procedures. We're at a point where we're finished going through all the policies and seeking a resolution from you as the board We've completed the review of policies 1001 through 9370, and we're moving to the new policies 1.01 through 11.10. So the resolution is the first step in ending those old policies and only having the one set of policies as we move forward. So this would come to you again as a consent agenda on the 17th agenda.
Any questions for Mr. Ray so far? I will entertain a motion to Mrs. Gotti.
I just want to make one comment. I want to thank Mr. Ray, and I want to thank Mrs. Neal-Sprash for the tremendous effort that they had to go through in ensuring that we actually had covered everything we needed to cover. Clearly, some of the policies from the past were very old and hadn't been addressed for a long time, and pulling those into all of the new policies was a tremendous amount of work and a lot of editing and really just managing of that process. So I want to thank them for really getting the board through that, because that is one of the major things that a Board of Education is supposed to do, is to read through all the policies. For those of you who weren't here through the beginning, I would encourage you to read them. Some of them are a little dry, but some of them have some real interest to them. So I would just encourage everyone to read through that. I'm always amazed at how many times somebody calls me and I think back to, oh, I remember when we read that. I might still have to go back to Mr. Ray and say exactly what was that, but I know it exists and I can reach back to it. So I encourage that, because that's our job.
Any other questions or comments? And I believe this went through the policy committee, correct?
That is correct.
So thank you also to the policy committee and those who serve on it, Mr. Pullman, Ms. Bryan, who else is on that committee? Vice President America, and I believe Mrs. Gotti used to be on the policy committee. All right, so I will entertain a motion to approve the item J1G.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Ms. Ryan, second by Mrs. Gotti. Any
Other questions or anything? Roll call, please.
Perlman,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Scanlon,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Gadding,
Aye.
Hallman,
Aye.
America.
Aye.
8 aye.
Motion carries. There is no information item and no receipt of reports. Vice President America.
I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel negotiations, pending litigation, and legal advice.
There's a motion on the floor to go into closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion on the floor by Vice President America, second by Mrs. Gadding. Roll call.
Ryan,
Aye.
Scanlon, Smith,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Gadding,
Aye.
Hallman,
Aye.
America,
Aye.
Perlman.
Aye.
7 aye.
Motion carries. Let me remind the board that the purpose for closed session is for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel negotiations, pending litigation, and legal advice. Let the record reflect that the board went into closed session at 7:56.